Welcome to the Richmond Film Network Podcast, your all-access pass to the world of independent cinema. Each week, we go beyond the credits and sit down with the creatives who turn vision into reality. Tune in weekly to find out who's on the RFN Pod.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Giles, your host for the RFN Podcast. And with me from Los Angeles today is Clarence Williams IV, who is the director of the short comedic horror film Bite Me, which will be screening at RFN Indie Fest on Saturday, August the 9th. Welcome, Clarence.
Thank you for having me.
Let me tell our viewers a little bit about you and read from your bio. Clarence Williams IV graduated with honors from the John Wells Directing Program at Carnegie Mellon University. He's completed 3 feature films since graduating. His feature film, No Doubt, premiered at the 2018 Silicon Beach Film Festival and is currently being distributed by IndieFlix and Freakish Films. Clarence's short films have been in over 100 film festivals and have received 36 awards and 21 nominations. And I don't know how old that bio is, but my guess is that you probably have some more awards and more nominations since then.
Just a few.
So Clarence, from where we sit here at Richmond Film Network, we kind of keep our eyes on you. And from where we sit, you seem to be a pretty productive guy. You churn out a lot of work in a short period of time. And making movies is not easy. So what's your secret to being so productive?
Well, I think the secret for me, one, is having a great team. So I definitely have to give a shout out to one of my biggest collaborators, my wife, Christina Araujo Williams. She is actually the writer of Bite Me. She also does casting. She's written other shorts as well that I've directed. She also wrote and directed her own animated project. So working with her, I have a sound mixer that I work with frequently, a DP that I work with frequently. So I think the key to kind of having successful relationships is working with people that you trust, that you like, and without the team, there's no film. So Bite Me wouldn't be what it was had I not had such a great team of people to work with. So that's definitely the key.
It sounds like a match made in heaven.
Absolutely.
When your partner is your spouse.
Right. Now sometimes I keep it real with you too. So there's you got the ups and downs, but at the end of the day, you come together.
So the project that we're talking about today, and of course the one that's screening at Indie Fest this Saturday, is Bite Me. And the logline is, when a dating app match goes horribly wrong, a young man finds out his date has a deadly secret. Can you expand on what Bite Me is about in your own words?
Yes. So to the core, Bite Me is a story about not taking people for granted and thinking twice before you invite what appears to be a lovely young woman to your house. So it's definitely a story about karma. It's a story about dishonesty. And honestly, it's a story that, at least my goal is that people will watch it and they'll want to have a nice conversation about it afterwards.
So it's not just a vampire movie.
No, it's deeper. It's always a little bit deeper.
You said that your wife wrote the story. How did she come up with such a story?
Well, she loves vampires. So she loves like Vampire Diaries, the TV show. She loves the originals, like just anything related to vampires she loves. Me personally, I'm more of a slasher guy. So I like, movies like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween. I like the demonic movies. So I wouldn't necessarily call myself a vampire guy, but reading the script and speaking with her, I realized it's a fun story. And it was also an opportunity for me to kind of step out of my comfort zone and tackle a project that I wouldn't normally tackle. So I definitely had a lot of fun making it. And it actually got me kind of excited about exploring, maybe more vampire projects in the future.
Okay. So you're working in a short format. It's a very tight 10-minute film, but you manage in that 10 minutes to create a slow simmering tension in telling the story. How do you approach building suspense in 10 minutes and that's such a compact runtime?
Well, I think the key is to focus on the characters. So definitely making sure I spend, of course, like you said, it's a short form project, so I don't have a whole lot of time to establish the characters. But the goal was to kind of introduce this young man, the Liam character, who's like a womanizer. He's, hoping to kind of get lucky once again. And you kind of, at least for that short amount of time, get a feel for who he is. And then the Quinn character, who ends up, of course, becoming a vampire, is kind of showing her a little bit mysteriously and making the audience kind of wonder, what's about to happen here. And I think that's kind of how you build the tension, is by establishing the characters and kind of letting them interact with one another. And from there, kind of seeing what unfolds as, the player and then the mysterious woman, when they get together, kind of seeing what unfolds in that dynamic.
And it certainly doesn't hurt to have great actors.
Absolutely. Definitely have to give a shout out to both Napoleon Highbrow, who played Liam, and then Ratoya Banks, who played Quinn. You're definitely right about that.
So tell me what it was like working with them. Have you worked with them in the past, and have they ever worked with each other?
So Napoleon and Ratoya have actually never worked together. They just, great actors. That's just a testament to their abilities. They were able to kind of make the chemistry pop. Ratoya is somebody that Christina and I have worked with multiple times. The very last project, aside from Bite Me, that she was in was it's a Christmas film that I wrote for BET Plus called Too Many Christmases. In addition to that, she's also starred in a few other short films. So we've been working with her for years. She's definitely a great talent. Then Napoleon, this was the first time that we had actually worked with him. Christina did the casting on this project. So he sent in a self-tape, and we both kind of watched it and just said, I think we saw Liam when we looked at his self-tape. He had like the energy, the charisma. So I think we're definitely very, very privileged to have had them involved in this project.
Now, I thought you did something really fun with the film. And knowing a little bit about how films work, I wondered if your choice in incorporating animation with live action was a practical decision or an artistic one.
So it's a little bit of both. Of course, when you're doing an animated component to the film, it'll save you, save a little bit of money. And you could also kind of stretch your creative muscles and make it, a little bit gorier or a little more intense than maybe you could have made it as a live action kind of, indie, low budget short film. So there were definitely, we definitely approach it from both angles. So of course, doing it as an animated component definitely allowed us to add more to it, but it also allowed us to kind of save some money in the process. So but it ended up working out. So it was actually Christina's initial idea to do the opening animated sequence. And then as I was reading the project and kind of thinking about it, I was like, you know what? I think it would actually work to kind of make it full circle and add that animated component back towards the end of the film during the end credit sequence. And it ended up, working out for us. So I definitely kind of love I'm a big fan of animated projects in general. So it was great to be able to incorporate that into this project.
It's a really fun opener and closer, especially the closer.
Yeah. Got to get nice and gory.
So tell me about the animator who did the project, who did that piece.
So this was actually, it was an animator. It was a small studio. So it was like two different animators that worked together. They're from out of the country, and they actually delivered this project pretty quickly. Honestly, we sent them the script, they reviewed it, and pretty much how the process worked was that they kind of put their own interpretation of what we sent over to them and what was described to them. And then from there, it was just a matter of adding notes, making suggestions of tweaks here, maybe add a little bit extra blood here, or maybe remove some of the blood there until we kind of got the finished product. But it was a seamless kind of quick turnaround time. They got it done within a few weeks, and we were able to just add it to the final cut of the project. And it definitely enhanced it, at least in my opinion.
About how long did it take from start to finish? To finish.
So the live action sequences, that was all filmed in one day. So it was just one day. We knocked it out in about like 10 hours. So definitely was not easy, because of course when you're making an indie film, you have a lot of the external factors. So there was like lawn mowers going on and dogs barking. So it was a matter of, stop, wait. continue. Oh, they're making noise. We got to cut. So it was definitely a little stressful, but we all pushed through and made it work. So the filming portion was one day. Editing, I also did the editing on the project. That took about, I think maybe like 3 days, three or 4 days. And then I sent it over to James Ersted, who's the sound mixer that we work with frequently. He also does post sound work. So it took him probably like another week for like the sound component. And then we also had a colorist. The colorist was pretty quick as well. I would say maybe like 3 or 4 days. And then the animated sequence in total was maybe about like 2 weeks. So definitely, I would say like about a month to get like everything completed.
Wow. You guys work fast.
Yeah, we do. Time is no joke.
So you've made your 3 feature films and again, screened dozens of shorts and have been recognized in directing and screenwriting. How does Bite Me fit into your broader evolution as a filmmaker?
Well, it definitely fits because it establishes that I'm able to kind of step outside of my comfort zone, as I stated before, because, I'm not necessarily like a vampire guy, but it kind of shows people that I can do a lot of different things. And I think that's kind of what I want to be known for as a filmmaker, is to not be put into a box. So I can make, a dramatic film about, racial politics, but I can also write a Christmas film, and then I can also direct a movie about a vampire. And I just want to be able to show people that I'm having to watch my projects that I am not a one-trick pony, and that I can kind of tackle different genres and be pretty versatile.
I love that. And that kind of leads me into my next question about your mission. Your mission is to inspire, provoke thought, and foster empathy. So how does Bite Me, even within its horror shell, how does Bite Me do that?
Well, I think just initially it's that whole idea of be careful about who you invite into your home. Now, of course, the circumstances of Bite Me are kind of outlandish. Vampires are not real, but you can take that similar, right? Or are they? Plot twist. But you can kind of take that scenario and incorporate it into the real world. Because, online dating is very popular. You're always hanging out with people, meeting people, and you have to be careful because, some people are crazy. Some people do not have your best intentions in mind. Some people are, unfortunately evil and have, sinister intentions. So I think definitely, at least to that degree, there is a level of relatability to the story of Bite Me. It's just, of course, you're not dealing with somebody that wants to suck your blood. And I think that the broader message as well with the projects that I create is that I want to create things, whether it's a drama, comedy, horror, that you walk away from, and 1, you want to watch it again, and 2, you want to have a discussion about it, and 3, it's something that you think about, something that stays with you long after viewing it.
So that's that to inspire and provoke thought piece right there.
Exactly.
So with all of this output and as much as you do you ever get creative burnout? And if so, how do you keep the fire lit?
I definitely have gotten creative burnout. I think I'm learning now to kind of take more time to just relax. I think before I was kind of just like, gotta write. And I still am like that now, but I definitely learned that it's okay to take some days off. It's okay to go a week without writing. Before I would be like, a week without writing? No, like I failed. But now it's like, it's okay. You don't have to be writing 24/7, creating 24/7. You can go, hang out with friends, relax, go to the movies, work out. So just, take time to yourself and recoup and, decompress and come back to it. So I think definitely burnout is real. Especially I've definitely gone through that, but I've learned to kind of embrace that and take a step back and realize, you can come back with a fresher eye, and that will actually ultimately end up making your project even stronger, or your idea even stronger. It's kind of taking that time away to just relax, not think about it, and return to it later.
So when you do take that time outside of movies and working out, what do you do for fun?
Christina and I have 2 dogs. So we have a husky and an Australian shepherd that are very energetic. So playing with them, hanging out with friends, going to play some pool. I love playing pool. I like playing tennis. I'm honestly just kind of like an energetic, kind of like silly guy. So just dancing randomly, putting on some music, annoying my wife, Christina. I like to do that as well. Also, I have nieces and nephews. So going, making time for them, playing, running around, doing the uncle job. And I think that's a good way to kind of have that nice balance between, the personal life and then the work life.
What's the best movie that you've seen most recently?
Most recently, well, can it be a movie that I've seen a bunch of times, or there's like a new movie that I went to see in theaters?
However you want to answer that.
Well, the movie that I love and I'm pretty obsessed with is the movie Juice. Now, that's not a new movie. It came out back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Before I was born, honestly, but I discovered it when I was like 10 years old, and I've seen that movie at least 1,000,000 times. And I find something new every time I watch it. It inspired me to kind of create my own version of that story. But it's a movie that is definitely stuck with me. And kind of what I try to do with my own projects is something that I've seen for years and years, but I never get tired of watching it. And it's a movie that I'll probably continue to watch for forever, honestly.
Is that the film that made you want to be a filmmaker?
So it's not the movie that made me want to be a filmmaker. It is the movie that kind of got me excited about making movies, but I would say Do the Right Thing. So the Spike Lee movie, he's actually one of my favorite directors. I would say that's the movie that made me want to be a filmmaker. And I saw that once again at a young age. These are all movies I should not have been watching as a child, but it's what can you do? But watching Do the Right Thing, that's another example of a movie that has had a lasting impact on me and just on the world in general. Unfortunately, a lot of situations that you see in that film, the prejudice, the racial clashing, the culture clash, the hatred, the animosity, a lot of that stuff, unfortunately, is still going on today. Also, the police brutality. And even though that movie came out back in the 80s, even now in 2025, a lot of the themes and the conversations and the situations are very relevant. And it's very inspiring to me that, something that was created as like a fictional work can have such truth to it and can really reflect, the world that we're in, unfortunately. So that's definitely, I would say Do the Right Thing is up there as like the movie that made me want to make movies.
Now, of course, you've screened with us before what to watch. So you are one that we watch. What do you hope that this audience, that Richmond, takes away from this film?
Well, one, I hope they find it funny. I hope they're entertained by it. I hope it, makes them jump a little bit, like, oh, that was cool, or that was weird. And I also hope that it's something that maybe they say, oh, I wish it was longer, or I wish it was a feature, or, I feel like that's cool too, when you make something that's a short and, people want it to kind of exist past that format. Because I myself have seen kind of shorts and been like, oh, I wish that was longer. Or you see shorts that end up becoming features and it's like, oh, so that was kind of like the starting block. So I think definitely that's kind of how I want people to watch, to perceive Bite Me, is something that's entertaining, something that's kind of freaks them out a little bit, but also something that they want to come back and watch again, maybe even in a longer format.
Is there any chance that would be possible? Bite Me turns into a feature?
So we have, we've discussed it. So it's not completely out of the question. We actually have even discussed doing kind of like an anthology horror series with kind of like a prequel to Bite Me. So you kind of see like Quinn's backstory before she became a vampire. So I won't officially commit and say yes, there will be a feature, but it's not off the table. I'll put it that way.
I love that idea. That would be fun. So if not, what would be the next story? What kind of stories are you itching to tell next?
Well, honestly, there's a lot. I have some romantic comedies that I've written. One is about two actors that have fallen in love over the course of taking an acting class together. I have another rom-com about like a sex positive writer that falls for a comedian who ends up, she discovers that he's a virgin. And you kind of see that dynamic of someone that's very, sexually fluid and confident with somebody that hasn't really had that experience, and kind of seeing where love kind of fits into the mix of that. I have a coming of age story that I've written as well about a group of friends and kind of like their last summer together before things change for all of them. So I definitely, like I said, I don't stick to one genre. I have multiple genres that I like to explore and tackle. But it's just, these are just the stories that speak to me and that I'm passionate about. And the goal is to, write them and hopefully they get made, they get produced.
So what role do you hope that your body of work plays in reshaping how underrepresented voices are seen in film?
That's so.
Yeah, so not just
deep question.
Yeah, not just who's telling the stories, but what kinds of stories they're allowed to tell.
One thing that I'm pretty adamant about is making sure I cast people of color in lead roles in my projects. One of the goals that I try to do with my work is to kind of universalize the Black experience. So I don't want people to necessarily watch a movie and say, oh, it's a Black movie because you have Black actors in it. I want you to watch a movie and say, I can connect to this story. I can relate to these characters who just so happen to be Black. Now, and of course, you have those stories where there is a racial component that has to be addressed. But at the same time, I don't just want to tell stories like that. I also want to tell the stories like Bite Me. And that's actually a great example because that's the story that can happen to any race. You don't have to be a particular, ethnicity to be a vampire. But I think as a whole, people of all walks of life can relate to that, especially horror fans or people that are into vampire stories. So that's definitely my goal with kind of representing or, depicting underrepresented voices is to tell stories featuring people of color in prominent roles. And the goal is that you don't see them or they're not defined by their color, is that, they're just fully realized humans who happen to go have a situation that they're going through. And then hopefully audiences, no matter where they're from, can connect to it and relate to it.
So if a dating app paired you with a perfect genre, what would the perfect genre be? And what genre would you swipe left on? Is it left or right? I don't use dating apps.
I think it's left.
Okay.
I think it's left. Yeah. I think it's left. I had to remember. I think it's left. So the one that I'm swiping left on is sci-fi. I'm not a sci-fi guy. There's only two sci-fi movies that I really, really love. And one is The Faculty. The other is Men in Black, or even you could say the Men in Black series. But those are like the only two sci-fi movies that I really am like die hard a fan of. So I'm not a sci-fi guy. So if I see sci-fi, swiping left. And I don't even know what it is. Maybe I'm just not really like into like going to space, or I am curious about like aliens and the different dynamics of like how that works. But I don't know. But just like when it comes to like Star Wars, Star Trek, I'm just not. That's just never really been like I gotta go watch those. Now, the genre that would be a perfect match for me is probably a tie. I feel like horror. If I match with horror, I think we can do some great things together. But also I would say dramedies. So if I see like a relationship dramedy or a family dramedy as well, something that I can swipe right to, I would definitely swipe right. I love stories that blend humor and drama. I love stories that explore relationships, whether it's romantic, platonic, or like I said, family oriented. I love stuff like that because I feel like that's, there's so many different types of situations in our lives and things that we've seen, and it's just complex. I think humans are very complicated in the way we interact with each other. The way we interact with ourselves is very complicated, and the way we, pursue and fall in love and break up and all of these things, it's just very intriguing to me. So I think some combination of a dramedy or of the relationship persuasion or the family persuasion would be a perfect match for me.
Complete this sentence. Great film is really about.
So I would say great film is really about power. And I feel like the word power can be used broadly in the sense that it's not assigned to a specific genre. So I'm not saying like it has to be a powerful drama or a powerful horror. It's just some element of a movie that you watch that has a powerful, lasting impression on you. I think that's what makes a great film. So if you look at, for example, I'll use horror as an example. A horror film that I love is Scream. And seeing that for the first time, it was powerful for me because of the plot twist, because of the wittiness of the dialogue and the self-awareness of the characters. And that was a version of power to me. And it made me kind of want to create horror movies in a similar vein with smart characters that, didn't just walk into empty rooms and say hello, things like that. And I that really left a lasting impact on me. Or for example, going back to Juice, that was a powerful movie for me because it was a story about friendship. And then all of a sudden it does a 180 and, one character turns on the rest of his friends. And it's just kind of almost becomes a horror movie in and of itself as well. So that was another project that resonated and had like a powerful, lasting impression. Same thing with Do the Right Thing. So I feel like a lot of movie lovers can kind of bring up that one movie that they've seen, that they've fallen in love with, and it had like a lasting, powerful impression on them, regardless of what genre it was. And I think that is what makes a great film. It's something that is timeless. It could have been made, 30, 40 years ago, and you can still watch it and discover new things or introduce it to your kids or your friends. And that's ultimately what I hope to do. I hope 30, 50, 60 years from now, people can watch some of my work and be like, have you heard of this guy, Clarence Williams IV? He made some cool movies. Why don't you check it out? And the cycle continues. So that is kind of what I think great film is about.
I like it. Good answer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Clarence, this has been great fun. We're so excited to be showing Bite Me this weekend. We're sorry you can't be with us, but we're glad your mom will be there.
Yes, she will be there with bells on.
Yes. We'll look forward to seeing her again. She can tell you all about it.
Absolutely. Well, first, just got to give another shout out to the Richmond Film Network. Thank you again for selecting another one of my projects, and I definitely will be submitting more.
Clarence, thanks so much.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Richmond Film Network podcast. Thanks to our guest and to you, our listeners, for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share. Tune in next week to see who's on the RFN pod. Until then, keep the cameras rolling.